Hey, what's up, dude?
How you doing, man? Feels like it's
Oh,
been a while.
yeah, it's been a little bit. Yeah, poor Steve Golds. We were supposed to have him on, but
Yeah, so I had COVID.
yeah, he had a bad case of coronavirus. Fucked him up though. But it's weird though because it fucked him up, different way than me. Because when I had it, I lost all smell,
Hmm.
all taste, and it laid me out. Yeah, like with like a regular flu,
Hmm.
how you get weak. With this, for me at least, it was like I couldn't move. Like I had to and I was disoriented and having weird dreams. Like I had this fucking dream of like I woke up like soaking wet, like just drenched, and that infused itself into a dream of like an octopus that was trying to rape me. And I'm like, oh fucking hell! It's like a nightmare. I woke up panicked, like fuck. I thought I was in the sea for about 5 seconds till I realized. And I know you had it, and then
Yeah,
my and my smell and taste didn't come back for like about a month. Was that similar to how your experience was?
yeah, pretty much. Pretty much the biggest that was the biggest symptoms for me was the loss of taste and smell. Maybe like a slight cough, but it wasn't really too bad for me. But yeah, even my taste hasn't really came back. I don't think 100% really still. Uh,
Have you have you noticed afterwards that like your preference for like stuff that you had liked before, food wise, you didn't, because that's how it was for me. Like I noticed my taste really changed, like rapid, like it really. I was like, I liked that a year ago, or I liked that 2 years ago, and all of a sudden, nope.
oh yeah, 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 pretty much. Yeah.
So we
Okay.
have Chad. What is it? Chad Lawson today.
Lewis, Chad Lewis.
Lewis. Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm adding to the screen right now. He just logged in.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Chad, how you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm doing good.
Good, good. Yeah, so yeah, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on. So Um, well, I guess we'll go ahead and sort of introduce ourselves. Everyone probably knows I'm Cody Sexton, um, aka Surviving Purely Out of Spot.
I'm Sebastian Weiss, author of many things that people have said kind words about, founder of Outcast Press. And Chad, introduce yourself. Uh oh,
Oh,
shit's fucking up.
connection issues.
Oh, we lost him. Well, all right. Well, we'll continue. Yeah, so we've gotten some pretty positive reception for the charity anthology, which I'm quite pleased with.
Yeah,
Um, Now, you follow this stuff more than I do, Cody, but um, it's not actually finalized yet, right? So Roe versus Wade isn't, so overturning it isn't finalized yet, but it's very likely to, is that's my understanding, right?
yeah, pretty much. It won't be. I guess it won't be the official announcement until sometime in the summer.
Man, what a fucking.
I can see Sebastian.
Oh, hey, you back?
Oh, he's back. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There we go.
Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, we lost you for a bit there, brother. I don't think he can hear us.
Yeah, I can see Cody.
Okay, Cody, you can see me, right?
Yeah, I can see everybody. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I can see Cody.
Can you
Uh,
hear? Can you hear me?
for some reason, I got kicked out for some reason. Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. 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 I think
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
might be good now. I think. Hopefully. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Tell us a little about your background if you want to. Must be delayed, maybe.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a massive delay.
Are you on your phone? Let's see.
Yeah, it doesn't. From what I can see, I don't see him talking. I don't know what's going on. Something weird.
Is it working now, Cody?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think it's lost you.
Oh, lost him again. Anyway, yeah. So returning while we kind of wait. It'll be interesting to see what justification that they use because it's a strict Fourth Amendment issue. That's what it was ruled on. So it'll be fascinating to see how they um, you know, see, but here's the thing though, like for everybody who thinks that like any kind of like objective law, like I've never understood people who give into that because it's like, okay, if the law is objective, then it shouldn't the fuck matter what political party someone's coming from. It shouldn't matter whatsoever. It's the fact that it is extremely subjective. That there's always fights over like Supreme Court justices and so forth, right? Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, and the thing is too, what people don't seem to understand is like even if someone was like good-hearted, right? Maybe they were like a Ned Flanders type Christian. Um, I don't think they quite understand the extent of like making abortion illegal. Like that would cover miscarriages. And I think it's something like 1 out of 4 pregnancies are miscarriages. So like imagine this, like you just have a miscarriage and then some fucking cop shows up at your door to harass you about it, you know? Is that the world we want to live in? No. I don't think we want to live in that world. I don't. I don't want to live in a world either where like fingers crossed I'll have a piece coming out that is about illegal abortions. People, you don't understand how fucking god awful it was. Like people, I mean, fuck the coat hangers and the all that shit. Like you'd go to people and they'd pump plant poison in you, aerosol. Women would die, otherwise be
Boiling hot water.
get reproductively fucked up, leave catheters in you. People, you don't want to return to that. Like, and here's the other thing that someone pointed out too is it's like it's fascinating with Republicans where their argument about guns is like this. Well, people are going to find a way to do it anyway. They're going to get a gun anyway. Well, motherfucker, people are going to. The same argument applies to abortion. You dumb fuck. The same thing. People are just going to, people are not going to stop having abortions. Fuck these people. It's just hatred of women. And like you say in your wonderful essay, it's just capitalist propaganda to get more cogs in the machine.
Yeah, pretty much.
These
I mean,
it's bad enough I got to drive by these fucking churches, waste the fucking space driving by these goddamn churches, and they got to insert their Christian dick into the law. Fuck you.
yeah, I mean, that's 100% what it is. I mean, there's a paper that I saw the other day. It was talking about how before the pandemic there was an unexpected like baby boom, and that didn't happen. Yeah, and then plus like me, I think now today or this week, I think we surpassed 1 million deaths from COVID. So I mean, we've lost a lot of workers from that. A lot of people have just quit. So I mean, so they're desperate for workers right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why like they'll never be like antinatalism will never take off, and Benatar acknowledges this. And for those that have wondered, um I've been in contact with him. He's swamped right now. We had technical issues before. I did hit him up. He's swamped. Listen, he's a professor. He's a fairly big name. He's going to take a rain check. Fingers crossed. Somewhere down the line. But yeah, I mean, even in a non-capitalist society, like you need people. Except, what was that one cult? There was one, not even a cult necessarily, I don't think. Wasn't there? There was one sect of Christianity that was completely against sex. They weren't really against reproduction in and of itself, but it was just they were against sex.
This was Quakers, wasn't it?
I don't know. No, it wasn't quite. I don't think it was Quakers, but they survived for a bit just because they kept recruiting new people. But eventually they died out because there was just no new members. But unless you have some kind of like Ponzi scheme, some kind of like religious Ponzi scheme like that, it's not going to work. All right, let's see if we can get Chad to.
Hey, Chad, can you hear me? I don't think it's going to work.
It might not.
Connection?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to go ahead and sort of tell everybody a lot about yourself.
And I think it might be the Wi-Fi. The next time I do this, it'll be a lot better.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. No problem. I know how it is. Yeah. So, you are a published writer at this point.
Stories.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about the work you're currently working on now, but kind of get into that. Yeah.
I really need to fix my laptop. Oh.
Yeah, probably.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I don't know. Did you hear anything I said or no?
No, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll ask again. Well, just
Yes, I have a story in your book.
Yeah, you got one of the stories on A Mother Could Love. Great story. It's been well received actually. So yeah, if you want to talk about any in your current work in progress you got going on, I know you got. I think is it short stories you got coming out, or that you're working on?
And to decide if I was going to release the materials, just put them all in one book. This girl, her little brother is raped by a priest, and the church covers it up. And so she makes a deal with the Reapers so that she can sort of take down the Roman Catholic Church. And in the process, she sort of becomes a kind of a hero, if you will. But the problem is that she learns that when she makes a deal with the Reapers, that she's not going to be free of it. It's sort of something she's stuck with for the rest of her days. But and then I got another story that connects to it about this girl in the 50s who was in love with this other girl, and her girlfriend got lynched because she was, and so in her rage, she wanted to get even with the men that killed her girlfriend. So of course she makes a deal with the same Reaper and ends up going after these Klansmen, and but they're all kind of connected in one way or another. I just haven't figured out how I'm going to tie it all together. I'm still working on that.
So it's like a short story cycle. They all it all revolves around like this Reaper, right? Like that's a common thread.
Yeah, that's the common thing. What I got it set up in the world that I did is that the Reapers are basically people that killed themselves, and how they get redeemed, whatever their version of Nirvana is, how they get redeemed is that they have to harvest so many souls. And but there's one Reaper, and he's not interested in redemption at all. He's using all these vessels, if you will, to just create havoc and mayhem. And they're all bound together, but it's there's a group of Reapers, but it's really just this one. And one lady, I let her short read. I let her read one of the ones called Some Cry Red, and she told me I was going to hell.
Did you tell her you don't believe in magic?
Because one of the guys that gets killed first is a youth leader, and she was talking about how like a youth leader would never do that because this guy basically in the story he had been this little girl's friend since she was 13, but he wasn't really her friend. When she turned 18, he revealed his true intent, and when she said no, he raped her. So her brother tracks him down, and he's made the deal with one of these Reapers, and he has these cherubs that like to eat human flesh, and so of course they devour this poor bastard. But this lady was talking about the detail that I went into, talking about the guy being killed. She was like, "Yeah, you're a torture monger," and I'm like, "Well, it's fiction." And she said, "Yeah, well, people don't kill priests and youth leaders in fiction." And I'm like, "Okay." But I don't know if it was that part, or if it was the fact that when there's a scene when the cops come in and the guy's girlfriend is over in the corner masturbating with a rubber cross. So I don't know if she got offended by that or she was offended by the guy being killed. I'm not sure which one. But
all of this sounds awesome. All of this, like, I'm sold already. Like all of this, like I think Cody shares my sentiment. Like we have a hatred of religion. So if you so it seems like the Reapers are kind of. It seems like from what you said, they're 3-dimensional, right? In that
they are
kind of got some good intent, but there's still some. They're kind of shysters, right? They still kind of fuck people over in ways, and even though they do some good, there's a real dark side to them as well, right?
Well, yeah, because see, their original thing is that they're supposed to show up at like wrecks, natural disasters. Anytime there's a shootout, those are the souls that they're supposed to take. But some of these guys are having more fun with it and imbuing these mortals with powers that can, just really fuck shit up. And they're collecting souls that way. So the whole thing, it's supposed to be this sort of originally this noble thing with them harvesting souls, but now it's sort of become a kind of a kill fest. But the ultimate end for a lot of them, like there's a little girl named Sylvia. She's only 8, and she made a deal with the Reaper because her mother was murdered by her dad, but it was made to look like suicide. And so she makes a deal with the Reaper so she could just see her mom again. And then she finds out that her mom, the Reaper was fooling her all along. She was never going to get to see her mom. He was just using her to take out this group of evangelists. And those poor bastards were like, and in the name of, and they're still getting killed left and right, like decapitations. And one guy ends up out in a barn somewhere, and he's trying to hide from one, and he gets his cock nailed to a table, and the kid gives him a knife and says, "Cut it off and live or stay here and die." And he sets the place on fire. And that sort of but it's like there's really no escape. Even if you cut your cock off and you escape, you're still not going to live because the cherubs are going to like eat you from the ground up. So, and these things are I can write it so much better than I can talk about it, but they're almost like the infants of the Reapers, but they basically just they circle around them. Whenever you see one of the Reapers walking, these cherubs, 3 or 4, they circle around their feet, and they're picking up scraps of light because the Reapers, the scars on the wrists or however they took themselves out, glow and drop tiny flicks of light. And the cherubs have been convinced that if they collect enough of these, they can ascend to the level that the Reaper is, but they never will because they're just basically tools of destruction. So they're always constantly circling around the Reaper's feet to collect these scraps of light. But then they've also been told that every soul that they bring forth for the Reaper, they get one step closer to this godlyhood they're wanting. But it's really they're just being used. They're never going to be Reapers. They're just these little hellions that eat people. And yeah.
So is there anything over and above the Reapers, or like are the Reapers like the ultimate reality? Is it kind of like a cosmic horror type motif where the Reapers are like the ultimate reality,
There,
or is there anything above them, or is there anything like above
there's
them?
there's a spirit above them named Apothelos, and he is sort of like the force, the life force that fuels them all. And I don't know yet what I'm going to make him. I just like right now, he's just sort of like this ball of fury, and the Reapers can go to him, you know, for like recharges and whatnot. But ultimately, he sort of not like it's not a voice in their head. The Reapers, whoever they possess, those people have constantly got voices in their head, you know, tiny fingers running up and down their back, or they feel stuff under their skin. You know, the whole thing with the Reapers is that while they get you possessed, they're trying to drive you to the edge of madness as much as they can without you taking your own life and becoming one of them, because then you do them no good. You're just part of you're part of the Night's Watch now. But the universal force over all of them, I think that his thing is that he doesn't really care about the harvesting of the souls. He's basically trying to bring about, you know, just the end of everything. He doesn't want to. He's one of those guys that, you know, it gets happy when the earthquake hits and nobody can find shelter, you know, because it's you know, unlimited souls, I guess. So, but I'm still fleshing this whole thing out. I mean, I've got 4 stories so far that are all tied into it, but I mean, I could end up taking it, because the last story that I started, I was trying to like keep it at 5,000 words, but so far it's at like almost 70,000. So it's, I guess, more of like a novella maybe. And I go into more detail about the history of how they all came about, and that they've actually been around for like centuries, you know. And so it's because that gives you like kind of, you know, you can like have them like around during like the Crusades and stuff, which is kind of neat. And but yeah.
Yes, it's a pretty fascinating world you're trying to build here.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sold. Yeah, I'm sold already. You hooked me at least. So yeah.
Well, the great thing about it is that when I started it, I didn't really intend for it to. I just started out with a little girl named Sylvia, and she had this. She had made a deal. At first, I had her made a deal with a kid. Then I thought, well, what if this kid's a Reaper? And his name is Thomas, and so she befriends him because the Reapers aren't all adults. Some of them, you know, died very young. And then when I got through with it, I thought, well, you know what? I don't really want to expand on her story. But what if like somebody else, you know? So that's when I came up with the idea for the one that takes place in the 50s, where the 2 girls fall in love, but the one gets, you know, lynched, and the other one, you know, of course, a lover spurn, you know, wants to take out revenge. And so I was like, well, what if she also met a Reaper? And then it's like, okay, cool. So what if like all these people in these different stories met these, and they all want to, yeah. So it's, but when you're writing it, man, it's a lot of fun, especially if you're listening to like, you know, Typo Negative or God Lives Underwater or something, you know, any of the goth groups, or like, you know, some, because you or Lustmord, you just run wild with the kill scenes, and it's always fun to have like some guy who's posing as a youth leader, but he's really a pedophile, and then he just gets slaughtered. And then, of course, that lady didn't think so, but it's gonna be.
I don't feel, what was she, like a pedophile apologist? Was she like pedophile's great? I don't understand what her problem was with a pedophile.
She was a friend of mine for a little while, and she was like, "Hey, you know, I saw that you got a short story called Some Cry Red, and I want," or, you know, at that, it was I think it might have been the Crooked Crosses. It might have been the one with the lynching. I don't know which one it was, but she read it. I gave her I asked her for her email, and I sent her the link, and she read it. And then she basically, I didn't get to have very long of a conversation. She told me that I was going to hell because I wasn't supposed to write about youth leaders and priests being killed in I had a sex scene where 2 nuns go at it really hard. That probably did it. It was the 2 nuns. They thought, you know, they looked outside and everything's like the church was burning down, and there's people running around, some like impaled, some like, you know, are getting beheaded. And so they just take off their clothes and they decided to, you know, throw themselves on the altar and just go at it. You know, I mean, I'm talking like full force, like Cinemax After Dark, go at it. You know, like, I mean, just like, you know.
Sounds hot.
Yeah, I think it might have. Yeah, I think that might have set her off, because she's like, oh yeah, she's like, you know, and nuns don't break their vows. And I'm like, well, maybe
Yes,
they do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they
Yes,
do.
they do.
You know, and of course, you know, but yeah, I think that part. But, you know,
Yes, they do.
it's funny though. People, and I told her before she read it, I'm like, I'm just going to throw the word trigger warning out there. There's like some stuff in there that you might not like because they get pretty graphic, but I don't know. So she told me basically you don't talk about, I guess like it's okay to be a pedophile and get killed, but if you're a youth leader and you're a pedophile, then you don't get killed. And if you're a priest and you're a pedophile, well, then you don't get killed, And she told me, oh, that's what it was. Yeah. And then she told me that I was going to go to hell for writing the story. I'm like, well, I'm sweating like a Catholic priest at an all boys school. And that made her mad. So because apparently Catholic priests don't sweat around boys. And I'm like, no, that's not. Yeah, but I don't know. So yeah, she gave me this long review on it, and then she blocked me, and that was it. And so I'm like, okay.
See, but that's how you know when you've written something good is when like you get that kind of like hatred, right? I mean, I don't know how. I mean, some of the pieces that have landed really well for me are pieces like that I've pitched just the idea to, and people are like, nobody's gonna. Well, do not do that. Do not do that, right? And then. But I just felt it in my gut to do it. I'm just like, there's something really good here. And I just did it and people liked it. So yeah, like whenever you feel like really terrified of putting something out or somebody, moralizes at you, you're on the right track, right? You know that you're pissing off the right people. So,
well, yeah, a few years ago when I first started writing, I was trying to write, because I write poetry, and I was trying really hard to write stuff that would please my family and my friends. And then I had like a really bad breakdown, and for like a whole couple of weeks, I wrote the complete opposite of how I normally do. And I realized, that I was having a lot of fun. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to write. I'm just going to write what I want to write. And if people like it, then that's awesome. But if they don't, at least I'll know that I'm, because writing, especially with fiction, what I was trying to tell her is that it should never be forced. And you can always tell if you're right. When you're writing something, like when you're writing a paper and you don't really like the subject matter, but you write it anyways, and you read it, but then you get a subject matter that you do like, and you read it, and it's just like mind blowing because you could tell that you were having fun when you were writing it. And so that's what I try to do now when I write stories. It's like you said, if I feel like oh wait, if I write this, I'm probably going to get. Obviously, I can't post it in any Facebook groups because I'll get put in Facebook jail. But if I don't post it there, if I'm just putting it in an actual story to publish, it's let's just go with this, and I'll go with it. And every single time, to me, it's funny. I don't know, but like the idea of like the youth leader, trying to run over to the table to get his arms back that had been taken off. He's trying to like grab one of his arms so he can get out of the house with an arm. It's just to me, it was just hysterical. I don't know. I was writing it and I was having fun. And but
yeah,
no,
yeah, we had me and Cody had Reverend Joel Hayward on, and he was telling a story about, was it a youth pastor or some kind of a minister, right, Cody, who kept a girl chained up under the altar, and then after service would take her out and rape her. So it's like, for any of these fucking people that think that this doesn't happen, it does. Not just among the Catholic assholes, among can you imagine that you're giving service, you've got somebody chained underneath the altar, and then after that you bring her out and rape her. So anybody who has sympathy, like especially if it's fiction, it's like, I want to see these people. Like you sold me when you talked about pedophile religious assholes getting killed. I can't wait. I am so stoked for this.
And I tell people, like I told a friend of mine, I said, there's far worse things out there. Like when I write stuff, a lot of the stuff when I write it, people tend to forget that it's just fiction. Like, I think like I met one guy who read some of my stuff, and when he saw me, he was like, you're not what I expected. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I mean, you're wearing a green shirt and some cargo pants, and you got a comic book. I'm like, well, was I supposed to be dressed in black with like a dark at my side? No, I'm just I'm a regular guy. I just write really dark stuff. But I told him, I said, there's things that are going on out there in the world right now that are far more worse than what I'm writing.
Oh, yeah.
And the
100%.
scary part is that it's real.
That's the horrifying part. Like, if you want to get really fucked up, look up Peter Scully. Have you ever heard of Peter Scully?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
So for
I think,
anybody who
because
thinks, yeah,
well, man, here's another one. Okay. I was married. I got divorced last year. For like a whole year, I was in a really dark place because my ex-wife, her stepson, who was like about 13 at the time, became obsessed with serial killers. He was just blown away by serial killers. Now, he would tell everybody that he wanted to be a forensic scientist, but he was never studying anything about forensics. He was only studying the killers, Bundy, Gacy, Dahmer, and he was studying their victims and how they died. And before long in his search history, you saw stuff on bondage, mutilation, rape, and whatnot. Well, he wound up strangling one of our dogs to death, an 80-pound Great Pyrenees puppy. He strangled it to death and left it in front of his sister's door. The bedroom that I'm in right now, the dog was outside the door. And then my cat, Persephone, he hung her from a tree out back and then stabbed her a few times. And his mom took him to a mental hospital the next day. And he confessed to them that what he used to do is he would choke out the animals. And then when they would wake up, he would choke them out again. And he told them that his plan when he turned 18 was to find a girl between the age of 15 and 17 and kidnap her. And they said, why 18? He's like, because I'll be old enough to buy guns and knives. And I told his mom, I said, this right here, this kid is going to be a serial killer, okay? And she's like, well, that's just a really, harsh judgment, Mr. Horror Writer. And I'm like, well, I write fiction, And
that's
yeah, he came home.
That's textbook. That's like textbook behavior leading up to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like almost a cliche at this point of leading up to. Yeah, that's Yeah, you were right to be concerned. I mean, I would be concerned too.
Well, and then when he came home, he went through like 4 psychiatrists, all females, and they ended up quitting. And I told his mom, I said, he doesn't need to go back to school yet. And she said, well, I think he's ready. Well, then, I'm at work one day and I get a call from the principal who says that he can't come back to school there anymore. And I'm like, well, what happened? He's like, I would rather you come find out in person. Well, come to find out, he wrote a letter and turned it in as an assignment saying that he was a god and he could kill everybody in the school. And he had been coming to school with knives, following girls home. I was like, see, man, I just write weird stuff. This right here is reality. And then he burned down our garage. He set it on fire and burned it down because he was going outside to get a breath of fresh air.
And his mother is still thinking that this is just fine. This is like, oh, this is just a phase. This is just a phase. He's going.
She thought she didn't want everybody. She didn't want the neighbors and she didn't want the school knowing what he had done because she was afraid that would paint a target on his back. And I'm like, but don't you understand that if he goes off and kills somebody, that blood is on our hands, right? And
yeah.
I was like, you're like the mom who knows that her son is Ted Bundy, but you're like, oh, he'll come around. And I'm like, no, it didn't work out like that. And then, a couple of months after his therapy was over with, he got mad at her because she wouldn't buy him an animal trap. He wanted to put an animal trap up outside so he could catch neighborhood strays and kill them in a humane way. And I'm like, define humane. That's yeah. And he was passionate about it, man. He was like these fucking idiots that are against abortion. And I'm like, hey, come on,
We were just ranting about that. Cody and I were, when you were having problems, Cody and I were just ranting about that. Speaking of which, that actually leads. We should. You're pleasantly invited to submit to. Cody and I are doing a charity anthology.
I saw that.
Yeah. By all means.
Yeah. Well, see, what they don't understand, I was telling a friend of mine earlier, is that, that these guys out here outside that are against it, all the politicians and preachers, is that if they outlaw these abortions, these girls are going to go get unsafe abortions. And, people are going to start doing like they did in the 1920s, like Frank Sinatra's mom, she did that stuff. She performed them in the basement. And, you're going to have young girls that are going to go and do that, because I don't care who you are. There's just times where the guy's not going to pull out. Something's going to happen, but it does not mean that, or you know what? I'll take it a step further. How about the girl who gets raped and the guy wasn't safe, and now she's pregnant. So she's supposed to have his baby, and then no. I can't get on board with that. I'm sorry. Or what about the girl that does not want to have kids right now, but her boyfriend tries to force it on her? So she should just what? No. And it's just it's really sad because or think about it. There was an 11-year-old recently. I read in the news an 11-year-old that got pregnant, an 11-year-old, and I don't think at that age your body can do all the things that a pregnancy needs to do. So, yeah.
Well, psychologically, emotionally, you're not even mature enough to handle that sort of thing.
No, my stance on it is I'm pro-choice. And I don't care if people go, well, you're going to get canceled. It's like, whatever, because I don't think that people who, or, there was a friend of mine, a comedian friend of mine, he posted a thing on his page and, no, it was a writer friend of mine, Clara Belt. I saw a post of hers where I think it says something about, think about the woman who they don't want her to get an abortion, but she doesn't have the money to pay for food, clothes, shelter, or maybe she's already got 2 other kids, and the third one to just like send them into poverty. So she shouldn't be allowed to make the decision whether or not she wants to do it. And I just don't think that,
Yeah, it's like Cody has said, these are just pro-birth extremists, right? Cody says that, and I love that phrase because there's nothing pro-life about these fucking people. Like they don't after the fetus is born, they provide zero support, right? They want to continue to cut food stamps, we have some of the most abysmal, parental leave. So again, they just want more cogs in the capitalist machine. And it's also a hatred of women too, right?
Well, yeah, of course. A lot of guys are threatened by a strong, smart woman. They don't want her to be able to do all the things that we've fucked up for years. And I think that but ultimately it's like, well, hell, okay. It's just, it's their body, so, they should be able to decide if they want to or not. And if you think about it, guys, our involvement in it is like very small. They're the ones that have to go through all the pain, all the emotional pain and all that stuff, maybe they don't want that. Maybe,
We get the fun part. That's all we have to deal with is the fun part.
Yes. Thank you. That's it. That's what I was trying to say. We're basically there to, wham, bam, and then they're the ones that have to endure. And it's 9 months for crying out loud, and then after that, most of the time, when the baby's born, they're stuck with doing all the routine things, waking up and putting them to sleep, feeding them, Yeah.
There's actually I always point people to this paper because this whole so-called debate, in my view, was ended over 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You can find this paper online. It's by Judith Jarvis Thompson, A Defense of Abortion. And she makes this wonderful analogy. It's called the famous violinist case. And so basically, to set it up, what this is meant to show is even if you grant the so-called pro-lifer all of the assumptions that they want, right? Grant them everything. Grant them that the fetus is a person. It's still morally permissible to have an abortion. And here's the general analogy that she draws. Suppose that you wake up one day and you are on life support to a famous violinist that in order for that violinist to live, they have to leech off of your body, let's say. And if you unplug, then they die. Is it morally permissible to unplug? Well, sure, you have no obligation to keep. It would be nice, right? It would be a nice, what in moral theories call extrarogatory, right? Which is nice, not required. It would be nice, but certainly you shouldn't be forced to be attached to this violinist. Okay, well, if you accept that, the same is true of abortion, right? Because essentially the same thing is, just substitute the violinist for a fetus. It's over, people. There's no debate.
Mhm.
It's done. Judith Jarvis
Well-
Johnson settled it in 1971. Enough with this shit.
Yeah. The whole issue hinges around the whether or not you have bodily autonomy or not. The appeals to emotion and like this, the red herrings about babies and murdering babies and so forth. That's just nonsense.
But it's also these
Well,
social issues. It's also every social issue, and I'm sure Cody can back me up on this. It's like, it's just a distraction. All these sort of cultural issues and moral issues that politicians bring up, they always bring it up on when they're trying to distract you from the red, white, and blue dick being rammed up your asshole, right?
Yeah.
How are they going to fuck you over economically and whatever? So you bring up immigrants, you bring up abortion, you
Let's
bring up
keep secret. Yeah, let's keep secret with the left hand. From the we're going to keep you not looking at the left hand. We're going to have you focus on the right hand, so you don't see what the left hand is doing. Yeah, it is, and it's the thing that people have forgotten, that America is a democracy, and I think a lot of these guys, for them, they're an empire. I mean, they're acting like Palpatine, because I mean, it's like they want it to be their way all the way, and it's okay for you to have an opinion as long as it doesn't clash with anything that they believe in. And to me, that's wrong. People should be able to have their own view of everything, everything. And for someone to sit there and say, like, well, a lot of these guys that are pro-lifers, they're probably the same guys that believe that the man is like over the house and the woman has no right whatsoever, that her place is in the kitchen and all this other stuff, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
These guys, I really just want to, it's like, if you could smack them, if you could just literally smack these guys, it would be so great just to smack them one time. So
that's what needs to happen. We need to normalize punching fascists in the face again.
We do. We could even have the holiday bitch slap. Around holidays, you just go bitch slap. I mean, don't just like, this holiday bitch slap is being sent to you by Cody Sex, and wow, you just like right upside the head, and
See, but it needs to
it's
happen
like, right on.
Like, it needs to happen like when I grew up and you hung around your guy friends and they said something really stupid, you just whap, like, you fucking moron. Like, they said, oh, we should go do this, and it was just something really dumb, and you're like, you fucking smack him in the head, idiot. But you know what, too? I also propose this is like, all these people who, especially to the politicians, because they have the real power. It's like, for every politician or Supreme Court justice or whatever that votes to overturn Roe versus Wade, it should be this: they don't get fucked anymore. They don't have no more sex, right? Then you are not allowed to sex anymore.
That'd be incredible. That would be so incredible if that happened.
If that was the result, I guarantee all those guys would suddenly have a big change of heart if all of a sudden they couldn't get their dick sucked.
Yeah. No more Viagra. You're cut off.
Yep. Yeah. No more Viagra. No more fucking sex for you if you do that.
Yeah. No, none of that stuff. Yeah. It'd be great if they did, but that's why, when I see people, when I read about it, because every morning when I wake up, I just check my news feed out of habit just to see what's going on in the world. And, it's really sad, because I hate to think about all these young girls that are out here right now. And two, what a lot of these guys don't understand is, like, maybe they want to have a life before they become a wife. Maybe they want to have like a maybe before a baby. Like, there's a possibility that there's a whole big world out there. They got things they want to do first, and having a kid, I'm sorry. I mean, it's not going to slow you down completely, but as a young woman, it might, because what if the father's some asshole that doesn't want to help her take care of it? Now she's got full responsibility while trying to work on regular wages to survive. And it's not cool, man. It's just,
and the wages for women are abysmal, and not to mention the wages for women are abysmal too.
Yeah, it's wild, man. My mom back in the 80s was a topless dancer. We lived in Memphis, Tennessee, and she worked at a place called Danny's. It was owned by Danny Owens, and she was a topless dancer because she tried working at Burger King. She tried waiting tables at the Waffle House, but even in the 80s, she didn't make that much money. So she became a titty dancer because she was making like $5,000 a night. And I never went for anything. I always had what I wanted. Of course, I mean, I was probably the only 5-year-old that spent time in a strip club because she didn't have a babysitter. So every night they would sneak me in through the back, and I would hang out in the guy's office and watch, Transformers cartoons and eat, food from the bar until I fell asleep. And then a bouncer would take me up to her car at the end of the shift, which was like 2 or 3 in the morning. But wild times, man, being 5 and seeing all these naked women walking around, it was crazy.
Okay. Be honest with me. You were kind of you come on. You liked it, didn't you? That was kind of, even at that age, you were like, "Oh, this is great."
I did, because my mom used to take me to see all the old all the old 80s horror films. When they would come out in the movies, she would actually take me in to see them. So, I mean, I had seen a woman running topless before, but from a monster, not, and one night I told my mom that. I told my mom that one night because I saw one of the dancers running and this guy was running after her. And she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's just I'm used to seeing topless girls running away from a monster." And she's like, "Well, honey, that is a monster." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "He's the preacher over at First Baptist on 31st. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So the preacher was there chasing after a topless girl. I was like, "Wow, okay." I was like, "All right, well then."
Was the preacher there to moralize, or was he there to?
No, he was there to have. No, it was more titty for daddy. He was there to have fun. He just wanted.
He's trying to exercise her demons with his penis.
Yeah, he was keeping the faith up, if you know what I mean. It was
another religious.
Yeah, Yeah, but it was so funny because those guys always, even as a kid, those guys burned me because I knew they would come to places like that. And there was a bar that my mom would frequent on the weekends, and she would see them in there. And then on Sunday, these guys would be like, just totally chewing everybody else to pieces. Well, you're not supposed to drink, and you're not supposed to smoke, and you're not. And I'm like, dude, you were there doing the same thing, though. I mean, it's like, I mean, but that's how it is, man.
Yeah,
it's like that.
It was just like back in like a decade ago. You had that huge anti-gay preacher, Ted Haggard, who was always like, homosexuality is a sin, and then he was caught with like 10 years hiring the same male hookers, snorting coke off his dick.
Yep. And it's off subject. I remember reading a few years back, whenever that big storm hit out, was it in Texas, that there were people who had nowhere to go, and Joel Osteen wouldn't even open his church to these people. Lakewood Church is what it's called, Lakewood Church. He would not even open the doors until they put it in the news, and then he reluctantly opened up the doors. And then he tried to turn around and make a sermon out of it and say, "Bro, you weren't going to let them in until people put pressure on you."
He locked the doors. The doors were locked. Have you seen his tax-exempt mansion?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it? Look it up. It is a palace.
Yeah,
tax exempt. No taxes on that fucker.
He had the doors locked.
Yep. It's a business. He's a religious entrepreneur.
It's also a bit of a sorority too. It's like you have to do this to get in, or that to get in. And I'm just kind of like but
you know how much it costs to go see? Look up how much it costs to go see Joel Osteen.
I can imagine it costs more money than I've got laying around. Yeah, and if I did have that kind of money, I could think of much better things to do with it than. But
like go to Oz, like go to Ozfest like 30 times.
Yeah, that or go to New Zealand, man, with like a Fat Boy sandwich and a tank of ale, and go sit where they filmed the Lord of the Rings or one of the scenes or something, and just kind of relax. And there's plenty of good things to do with that money other than go see some guy so he can be like, all right, everybody smile. It's like, I don't want to smile.
Yeah. You see, but it's kind of a sociopathic smile too, right? Because like a genuine, like when you see him smile, do you see his eyes light up? Right, that's a big hint for me. No, it's that fake, like, right, where there's nothing behind the eyes, right? That's the dead giveaway.
Like a natural smile will
definitely
engage all your facial muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I was a kid, back home in Memphis, there was this little boy that would run with our group, and he was like that. He would smile all the time, but it wasn't like the tornado sirens were going off, and we're trying to get back home, and he's just like smiling. And, the same thing, like, we would find ourselves, we knew we were about to get our asses whipped by our dad for doing something we shouldn't have. And he's still smiling. And we used to have this game we played called Milk Jug. Me and my brother invented it, where our mom was really notorious for recycling, the gallon milk jugs, the half-gallon milk jugs, and the single serves. So on Saturdays, we would go out there into the garage and get all these jugs out and fill them up with water. And me and my brother and two of our cousins and one of our friends and this smiling kid, we'd run after each other and hit each other with these full jugs of water. The goal was whoever had the most bruises lost. And this kid one time got hit with one of the jugs right in the face, and he got up and he was still smiling. And it was scary. It scared me because I was like, why is he so happy?
Yeah.
And, yeah, we had some pretty fucked up games when I was little.
That kid went on to become Ted Haggard.
Maybe he did. You never know. He might have. It's like, well, hello, how are you doing today? It's like, I don't know. You tell me. But I don't know. Like there are probably people like that here in Tulsa that maybe I haven't encountered yet. I mean, but I know we have like back home, it's really thick with Jehovah's Witnesses. They used to come to our house and knock on our door like all the time. One morning I was there and they would not stop knocking on my door. It was just a steady dot, 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 dot. So I just answered the door naked and followed them out into the front yard. They took off running. They never came back. Yeah, they never came back.
That'll do it.
Yeah. I've done similar things, not quite that, but like I got the Mormons to finally fuck off because I said to them, I go, oh, good. See, I pretended like I didn't know what they were. And I was like, oh, good. I didn't know you were here for the orgy we're having. You were having this major orgy. And we got a lot of women, but we need some other guys, right? Come on. They're like, no, that's not what it's called. Like, oh, don't be shy. Come on. You'll get mixed up and you'll eat pussy. You know how they're dressed, right? They have the name tag. They're just like, and they're like, no. Never saw them act. I was outside about like a couple weeks after that, and I was just smoking, and I saw them. They saw me, and they like looked at me, and then they took. I was gonna confront them.
So. They don't want to be part. They don't want to be part of the orgy, man.
You believe that?
That's wild.
If somebody invited me for an orgy, I'd be like, "Fuck yeah!" Like,
it's like, let me get a look at who's here first. So, okay, if this is like an orgy, like, let's just get a look at but no, I don't know, man. But those, the use of all that in the stories, I find it funny that people will watch The Walking Dead and all the stuff that goes on there. They don't get triggered, but then they read something like what the rest of us write, and they all of a sudden they want it just like banned. And I'm like, well, just remember some of the best books are the ones that are banned. So,
that's the hallmark. Is like Cody and I have said this. Like, the worst thing that can happen is that nobody engages with your stuff. Like, if they engage with it positively or negatively, they're still engaging with it. I mean, certainly from an artist's point of view, you want people to like it, but even if they hate, if they have some kind of a reaction, that's the goal, right?
Right.
I mean, the worst that can happen is to pick up a story or a book and feel nothing. But if you pick up a book and you feel disgust, I mean, there's some stuff that I've read where I felt kind of nauseous, and I'm like, okay, well, that's the intended effect, right? I wasn't offended, but I was like, okay, the author achieved the effect, which was outlining this very grotesque, for a purpose, scene of outlining like slaughterhouses. I think the one was like a very vivid description of slaughterhouses, and it was just like, it made me a little bit queasy.
I've got one. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever read It by Stephen King.
Yeah.
In that book, there's a scene in the junkyard with the refrigerator, and the kid's been putting, dogs in there and shutting the fridge and leaving them out there. And then when he comes back, one of the dogs, I guess it's Pennywise, but one of the dogs turns into this big maggot type butterfly thing, and but that whole sequence is just like made me like actually like go, okay, yeah, this is pretty, it's pretty bad. So
one of the funniest stories that I heard was Neil Gaiman likes to, or is it Gaiman or Gaiman? I can't remember.
I think I always get it messed up too. Maybe it's Gaiman. I don't know. I got one of his books laying around here somewhere.
Yeah, I got confession. I've never read them, but no, he has a story where he tells about Alan Moore, where he goes to have dinner with Alan Moore right when Alan Moore is writing From Hell, which is about Jack the Ripper.
Oh, yeah.
And so, they're having dinner, and Neil asks Alan Moore about what he's working on. And Alan Moore launches into this long description of Jack the Ripper, cutting open Mary Kelly, and he's like, oh, he's taking his liver out and putting it here, and then he's like, and then I lost it. And then, Jack the Ripper, he takes the lungs out, he taking it to the light. He's like, look, it's just like Christmas lights. And Neil Gaiman said, he goes, I got physically ill, and I had to it's like, Alan, I have to just step outside. And then he goes, I heard from when I was leaving, I heard Alan go, well, there goes Neil Scary Trousers Gaiman.
Oh my gosh.
So just like making fun of Neil Gaiman while he was leaving is fucking awesome, hilarious. Yeah,
that is hilarious, man. I know I read a story about Neil Gaiman where he has this gazebo in his backyard, and when he goes out to it, he can write, but he can't do anything else. He can sit there and stare, but he can't do anything else but write. He leaves his phone inside. I thought that was like really, really cool, because I know that a lot of people suffer distraction when they're writing. So I thought, having something like that probably would help out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How many? I was going to ask, how many writing groups have you been kicked out of now?
How many what now?
How many groups have you been kicked out of now?
Oh, about 15 or 16.
That's something that Sebastian can probably commiserate with.
Yeah, most of them. I still have that apology from that one. Most of them, when they kick me out, they tell me that that I'm writing in the first person. Which, by the way, I have an Ernest Hemingway book where Ernest said that it's okay to write in the first person, but they said because I'm writing in the first person, that they believe that that's how a lot of like tragedies get started or something. Basically, they were trying to say that I was a killer, but I'm not. And so, but they can't have that kind of darkness tainting their group. So they give me the boot, and I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, writing in the first person is difficult, but I tend to write in first person as well, just because it's, especially if you're writing an unsettling piece, you can really, you can do it with close third person, but you can really get into the psychopathy of the person and how they think with first person in a way. And especially if you're reading it, it's almost like you're a voyeur into that person's mind, which is nice. But yeah, I've been kicked out of some, not 15, that's, but you're in good company too, because Chuck Palahniuk, he's been kicked out of, in his early days, he was kicked out of some groups. Here's a story that he relayed. I'll try to do it as justice, but he said he was with these really nice old ladies, and he read a piece. He read a piece where where this kid was infatuated with this girl, so he got a blow up doll, and he dressed her up and dolled her up to look just like this girl that he was infatuated with. And during the act of copulation, like it got a puncture, kind of like a hole in it or something, and it started to lose air. So he had to faster and faster before it deflated. And then to top it all off, when it was done, his mother walked in and saw the deflated doll hanging off of his erection, and and so there's that humiliation aspect. And he said that after he read that, one of the women pulled him aside and said, "What you wrote was very disturbing and unsettling to the rest. Please don't come back." And it's like, ladies, if that's the most disturbing thing you heard is just somebody fucking a blow up doll, like, you've been living you've lived a very nice life. So
Yeah, I've been there before. People like that wanting like I had a scene in a book where a cat got killed, and this lady accused me of being a inhuman or whatever, and I was like, I actually have 3 cats and I love cats very much, but what happened in the story was just, I didn't do that. That was Vincent Nerezi, that character of mine that killed the cat, and he only did it because the Reaper was telling him to. So, but it was so funny because she was doing that, and then one lady, as if it was bad enough, she blocked me from the group, and then her husband or her boyfriend private messaged me, and when somebody messages me, I at least like read what they sent before I respond, I try to respond with something, and he was threatening to like travel to where I was and kick my ass because of what I wrote, and I'm like, are you serious? This is just fiction. I'm like, I don't really understand why you want to kick my ass because it's like, okay, well.
Yeah, I'm baffled at people's inability to separate art from, or life from art.
Well, again, it takes me back to, like I said, nothing against the writers of The Walking Dead, but people love that show to death. And I'm like, you're watching this, but you're triggered by all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't understand it.
Well, it's fascinating too. It's fascinating too. Like the one strategy that I've learned, which is if you really want to make people hate a character, is you have any kind of that character abuse an animal. And so it's funny because Stephen King talks about this. He'll say that he gets more hate mail from
Greg Stilson, Dead Zone.
From Greg Stilson kicking, whether he like kicks a dog, if my memory serves right, he
maces it. He maces it first, and then he kicks it to that was Greg Stilson in Dead Zone.
Yep. Great book. Awesome. And then one of my favorites, Cujo, when it's like, you do know like a kid dies. And then Stephen King goes, a kid dies in that, right?
Yeah.
What's funny about that book too, Cujo, is I believe that's one of the books that Stephen King doesn't remember writing because he was so
right. He was on cocaine. Yeah. And plus I've read that book. That's actually one of my favorites. I've read it several times. And what's so wild about that book is it's one hell of a roller coaster because when you start, there is no breakage. There's no sub chapters. There's no 1 through 72. It's just it opens up once upon a time, and then it does not stop until page 310 or 350. And yeah, it's crazy. That was speaking of him. They made a remake of Firestarter.
That's it. I heard about that.
I think it comes out on the 13th.
Yeah, Cujo was probably one of my favorites. I think just because I think any writer is probably disturbed by this one, just Misery. That one was just like Misery was great. I liked Misery. I didn't care for The Shining. I just didn't, for some reason, I didn't find that. I just didn't like it. It was praised, and I was like, I just didn't. Carrie was good. Carrie was really good. His short fiction is fantastic. I mean, I will praise it.
Oh yeah,
he's a master of short story.
Salem's Lot was good, but for some reason, The Shining, I don't know. I just didn't find it I found it boring. I don't know.
I liked Pet Sematary, man.
That was good.
Page 72. Page 72, and that cat comes back from the dead. I couldn't go to sleep after that. That was for me like pretty wild. I was like, but yeah, Misery was good. Paul Sheldon. I actually felt like him with my last roommate, and that's a scary place to be because she was a lot like that lady in that she was stalkerish, and it was like wanted to know every place like, I mean, it was just like being in a really fucked up episode of The Twilight Zone, and but yeah, the Misery was good. Yeah, The Shining. I don't know. I don't think I read The Shining. No, the last book I read was The Stand. Yeah, not The Shining. Okay, it wasn't.
Yeah,
it
that's
wasn't,
like his magnum opus. Yeah, I thought it was
yeah.
good.
He talks.
I thought it was good.
He talks about how sad it is that people still to this day tell him his best book that he wrote was over like so many decades ago, and he's like, "Wow, that's a."
Yeah, I haven't read any of his stuff like in the last that's come out in the last probably 20 years, I think. So I can't comment on that, but I mean, I love his short stories. I mean, I think that was his prime, and then at least his novels from the 70s and 80s were really pretty good, like Misery.
Yeah, those are a lot of my favorites.
Yeah, it's always funny with it because I mean, I'm sure you know this because you've read it, but they always cut out the scene, and when they make a movie out of it, they always cut out.
I know what scene you're talking about. Yeah.
Always cut that out, and I'm going to leave it to. I've talked about it before, but for people who aren't familiar, read it and then read the last chapter, or watch the movie, and as they cut out, in my opinion, I can understand why they cut it out, but read the last chapter of it. It was I don't know what Stephen King thinks about that. If he thinks that's, but in like how many remakes have there been? Just two, right? There've been one in the 80s, I think, and then the newest one.
They had like the TV miniseries like early 90s, and then they had the remake. Yeah.
I like the remake better. I thought that it was more surreal, I guess. Plus, I thought Bill Skarsgård did a really great job playing the clown, but Tim Curry was great too. He was working with what he had to work with, but
Tim Curry's great.
But yeah, I think that scene. Yeah, I know what scene that you're talking about. As far as like his recent stuff, he released a book of short stories here a couple of years ago called The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. You should get your hands on a copy of that. You can probably buy it in paperback on Amazon for maybe a couple of bucks after shipping and handling, probably like 6 or 7. Yeah. And there's a lot of good stories in there. I like that one, but I think my favorite collection is still Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Definitely. 4 Past Midnight was good.
I would say Skeleton Key for me. That was probably my favorite collection of his, just because it's got my favorite short story of his in there, Survivor Type.
That's good.
Oh yeah,
that one.
Man,
that one's good, and it's got the Mist. It's got the Mist, which is great. Also, like speaking of, I mean, they've done so many Carrie remakes. Okay. The one with Sissy Spacek, I think it was Sissy Spacek. That one was good. Mm-hmm. For some reason, it kind of got panned, but I liked the one where Julianne Moore she played the super religious mother. I forget who played Carrie, but I thought Julianne Moore absolutely
some girl
killed it.
I forgot her name, but I think I know which one you're talking about. Wasn't that one? They didn't call it Carrie; they just called it The Rage, right? Wasn't that what it was?
No. It was actually called. Yeah, it was called Carrie. It was like a 2010. Let me look it up real quick here.
I can't remember her name either.
Yeah.
She played in Kick-Ass there's a little girl.
I think it was okay. So yeah, they made a couple of remakes. I think it was a 2013.
I know which one you're talking about. The one you're talking about, right? Yeah, I know the girl though. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. I don't think it was well received, but I liked it a lot just because. Yeah, Julianne Moore played the mother. Like, I mean, she played like this hyper religious.
Oh. Yeah. Well, anytime you have like remakes, it's hit or miss because like they did a remake of like Chucky, and it just I don't know, it was all right, and then they did a remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and that was just not cool.
Yeah, they bang out some of these franchises too much. Like as a kid, speaking of Chucky, I love the child. I mean, I grew up on that, like the Child's Play, and the Jasons and the Freddys and the Halloween. But Chucky was one that I really. And you know what? It just got silly after a while when they were releasing them into the 2000s. It's like, just stick with the couple ones. Don't keep. I think it was like Bride of Chucky, and it's like this.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Part one will always be my favorite. I really love the first one. I think if I had the opportunity to write a script for a horror film and it was going to be a remake of one of the classics, I would like to do The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yep.
I would, because there's a lot of material there that you could work with, and you could ad-lib your own stuff and make that film a really dark masterpiece. I mean, the original to me is a masterpiece, but if you did a remake of it, you could really just blow it out of the water. There's so much untapped potential there, but nobody wants to go back and remake. When they go back and remake the classic Universals, the only ones they want to do is like Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, but they forget about, the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, that would be, because it would definitely be, and you could do a sequel, but only if you did it right. Like, you take Rob Zombie's Halloween movies. The first one I thought was pretty cool, but the second one I kind of felt like the writers were just in a rush, because when you watch that first movie, you could tell that everybody was like excited to be on this project. And the second movie, it was just kind of like, okay, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
I've already had like 2 monsters and can't get through the film.
I wouldn't mind seeing a remake. I forget what the movie is. There might be a couple of them like this, but it was in the 70s, and I think the plot was something like a guy. It's about a car that for some reason I liked it. It was about a car, like a guy who gets like a demon possessed car.
Christine.
Huh?
Christine. I think you might be thinking about Christine by Stephen King.
Yeah, where like the car goes around and kills people. Yeah.
It's Christine. Yeah.
Okay, I forgot what that was. It's been a while. I like. And
I'm going to tell you something. If you haven't read the book, the movie was great, but if you haven't read that book, Christine by Stephen King, then just forget about the short story book I recommended and order Christine instead and read that one. You'll go through it like a glass of cold water in summer. It's delicious from start to finish. You could read way worse.
Was that during his Coke and Booze days?
Yes. It's an 80s book.
All right.
Yeah, those are always fun.
Christine. You can pick Christine up, get it. I've got it in hardcover, but get it in paperback, and you could probably pick it up with tax, with shipping and handling. You could probably pick it up for like $6 or $7 on Amazon. And that's definitely one of the books. As far as like the books that came out during that era when he was on Coke and stuff, you should read Firestarter, man, because the movie was pretty good, but the book again was way better. Firestarter, Christine, Dead Zone. What else was it? Of course, Cujo. Carrie. There was another one.
They did the miniseries of The Stand.
They also did one of the Green Mile. I remember that.
Langoliers. They did the Langoliers, which I like that one.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories of Stephen King is back in the late 80s in Maine, there was this classic rock station that was getting bought out by a classical outfit. They were going to buy it and make it classical music, and all the owners were scrambling, trying really hard to get the money together to buy the radio station, but they didn't have it. And at the last moment, Stephen King came in and just bought the station. And they never said how much money he paid for it, but he bought it. And he wanted to meet all the workers, and they're all freaking out, like, why is a horror writer buying a classic rock station? And he comes in, and he's like, well, you guys have been playing really good music for the past 2 decades when I write my books. I want you to keep doing it, but play more AC/DC. And then he just walks out of the room. And I was
AC/DC, that's how he edits. At least that's what he said when I heard in an interview. Like, when he writes silent, but then when he edits, he puts on classic rock. So like
loud music,
Bob Dylan or something he'll put on. So I can see why he would buy it out, AC/DC.
Well, Then he was probably just thinking, you know, it's a chance for him to, you know, because I know that I get the feeling that he supports local business, like because you heard the story of how he came up with Cujo, right, with the motorcycle and everything.
Yeah, he goes to some guy's house and then the dog.
Yeah,
with the wrench. Yeah.
yeah, that was savage, man. I'm like, wow.
Didn't he come up with Pet Sematary in a similar way? He was like walking through a cemetery and like, what's the story behind that? Because he got that from there was an actual Pet Sematary, and he talked up the groundskeeper, right?
What I remember was that his daughter and him and his wife, his daughter, and at that time Joel, they were all on vacation. They were little kids, and this local told him to make sure that they kept their cat away from this one road because there's no Rono truck in real life, but you know the highway. You know, a lot of animals got killed there. Well, his daughter's cat got out and got killed, and one night he heard like, you know, a loud popping coming from the garage and a lot of yelling. He walked out there and she was out there at 2 or 3 in the morning, just, you know, stomping up and down on bubble wrap and, you know, yelling at God for taking her cat. And I think that was one of the parts where he came up with the story. But yeah, he might have gone through the cemetery. I don't know. I know it's the one book though that when he finished editing it, I don't know if Chuck Verrill edited that one or not, but he put it away because he thought he had gone too far and he wasn't going to publish it.
Mm-hmm.
He was just going to leave that one alone. But I'm glad now that he didn't, because that would have been horrible to have not been able to read that book.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the one story he said that scared even him.
Yeah, he said that one actually disturbed him too. So that's pretty badass. Yeah. But yeah, you should definitely read Christine. I think you would enjoy that one tremendously, man. It's
Christine. Yeah, let me add that to my list.
When you get it, it's kind of like the only thing I can compare it to is it's kind of like imagine that there was like a movie coming out that you really, really wanted to see, and you just couldn't make it to the theater to watch it, and then the next thing you know, life gets crazy, and you don't even have time to watch it on, you know, VHS, DVD, or Netflix or whatever. And after a few years, you're like, oh wait, I was going to go watch that movie, and then you finally find it, and you get to watch it. Well, that's how it's going to be with Christine. It's one of those little gems that when you read it, you're going to be like, you know, you'll actually be a little sad towards the end because you're like, fuck, this is like one of the last great, you know, Coke and booze books, you know, but it's really good.
I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out too. Yeah.
Especially when he talks about the kid choking on the hamburger in the back seat. I was like, damn, you know, it's like, yeah, because before the kid got a hold of it, this older guy owned it. And his daughter, this is the only spoiler that I'll give you, but she died in the car. She was eating a hamburger in the back seat and she choked on the hamburger. And he thought that it was the car that made her choke. And yeah, it's just yeah, it's pretty wild, man. You'll see when you read it.
Did you know that back in the 70s, he had the beard, he kind of looked like Francis Ford Coppola? And so people used to mistake him for that, and he wouldn't correct them. So they'd be like, hey, you're Francis Ford Coppola. Yep. And he would like pawn himself off as Francis.
I heard about that. There's also another one back when he first started where he had to fly to a book signing, and he was really scared of planes. So he just got really drunk, and he was on his way from his seat to the bathroom, and he saw this lady reading a hardcover copy of Carrie. And he was like, you know, I'm going to, he could see his photo on the back of the book. He's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And when I come back, I'm going to ask her if she wants me to sign that book, and I'm going to sign that book for her. And so he was coming back. He was like, hey, what do you think of the book? And she's like, it's the worst piece of shit I've ever read. And he's like, okay. And kept on walking and sat back down. I'm like, poor guy.
Yeah.
I'm a poor guy. But yeah, man.
I think my favorite short story of his is going to be The Boogeyman. If I had to pick one.
Okay. I don't know if I've read that one.
It's in the Night Shift collection.
Okay.
That's another great collection. That's my second favorite collection, I think, is Night Shift. That was his earliest work, right? That was his earliest, more pulpy type work. Yeah.
I think that Night Shift was a collection of short stories that he was trying to sell before he became famous. And then after he became famous, he culled all them together into a book, because back before he got big, he used to send the stories off. This is back when Playboy used to buy stories. He would send stories off and sell them to smaller magazines, and some of them, but he had made a remark that like, for instance, there's this one science fiction magazine that he sent a story to and they rejected him, but then after he got signed, he found the story and like doctored it up and sent it back, and they bought it with no question, because he was like, yeah, once they know that you've got a couple of books behind you, they're more apt to buy, So yeah,
once you know you got an audience, they'll usually eat it up.
Yeah, it's
I've been getting in. I just started on the. People have been recommending Stephen Graham Jones. I've been getting. I just started The Only Good Indians. Which is pretty good. I think you might like him. He's got his new project he's working on. I've got his latest one, My Heart is a Chainsaw, on its way, and that's kind of a homage to like slasher films, but from what I hear is he turns a lot of these on their head. So like he's like a big slasher film like buff. But he kind of doesn't like, but you know how there's a whole bunch of cliches, right, about stupid cliches, and my understanding is he turns a lot of them on their head, which will be interesting to see how he does that. But no, The Only Good Indians is, so far, it's really good. The prose is a bit jarring at times. Like, I won't lie. Like, a lot of people complained about the prose, but once you get used to the style, it's very nice, and it's very, and it's got like a literary quality to it as well. And yeah. And of course, Stephen Graham Jones is. I don't know a lot about him, so if he ever watches this, I apologize if I fuck it up. But I forget what tribe he's from, but he's fully embraced his Native American roots, and so you see that bleed through in The Only Good Indians. Like, there's a lot of homage to that. So yeah, I would recommend it. I'm about a third of the way in, and yeah, it's good.
I picked up was it My Heart is a Chainsaw? I've got that one, but I haven't started it.
Yeah, that's the one that's on. I've got that one coming. My Heart is a Chainsaw. I got on digital. It was a sale, so I don't usually like ebooks, but I'm reading. The Only Good Indians, or The Only Good Indian. I forget. Right now, I just started it yesterday, and yeah, like I said, the prose can be a bit jarring, but once you get used to it, it's really good. You can definitely tell that there's some shit that's going to happen. That's going to be. And I listened to interviews by him, and he sounds like such a nice dude. Like, he sounds so down to earth. So that's always a plus, is when, like, at least for me, like, when the author is both good and also not an asshole. Like, that's
man, I don't.
Selling point.
I don't like any writers. I know a few writers in some of the groups that are like that. They think that like they're the next big thing, and they just talk down to other. And I'm kind of like, you know what, man? I mean, it's really, kindness costs nothing. I mean, if somebody is like, hey, I'm thinking about writing, what would be a good place to start? It's so much easier to be like, well, write a lot and read a lot. That's what Stephen King said. Versus like, well, you're talking to like, a future multi-million-dollar writer, so I don't have this for you. And it's like, come on, man. I mean, it's or I've heard of like writers that that try to act like rock stars or movie stars. People will see them out in public and ask them if they can autograph their book, and they won't sign it. They want to sign it at the book signings where they're paying like $100 and $200 for the signature. And I'm like, really? I'm like, come on, man. You know. Oh, let me close this window. It's raining.
Yeah. Or there are people that are like they're really pretentious and they try to be they try to be Nabokov, right? Quoting, I know somebody like that, who wants to be Nabokov and is super pretentious.
Wants to be Nabokov, but it's really more like a Dr. Seuss type.
Yeah, you probably know of them. We probably know who we're referencing. But
I think I might know, because I know a guy like that, and he thinks very highly of himself, and he just he, as far as he's concerned, he is the premier writer, and I'm just kind of like, I don't. It's really and I don't. I mean, I just don't like when people do stuff like that. Like, I mean, I know I write because I just enjoy telling stories, and I write poetry because it helps me with everything I've got going on inside, but I don't really put myself above anybody. And if anybody asks me the meaning of something, I'm quick to tell them, and I'm not going to sit there and say I'm better than you. And I'm not going to act like you. Yeah. I'm not going to act like but yeah, I know a guy like you're talking about. He posted something one day, and I responded to it, and I mean, it basically got tore to pieces. And I'm like, okay, I thought we were supporting each other here, but I guess this is so yeah. But
yeah, I've always had the attitude. That I'm just like so grateful when anybody like wants to read my stuff, that I doubt I'll ever achieve Stephen King level fame. And at which point, I mean, let's just say in some weird, very unlikely universe I do, then it might be a little bit harder to respond to everybody. But yeah, I mean, I'm on the same boat as you. Is it's just like, if somebody's picking something up and they're taking the time to read what I wrote, I just feel so grateful that they would do that. And any kind of praise or whatever, if somebody wants to come up to me on the street and be like, "Hey, will you sign this?" I'd be like, "Holy shit, you actually have that?" I mean, like,
well, yeah, here's something else, man, that blows my mind right now, and maybe I'm just a little bit like archaic. I don't know, or old school, but I see a lot of these like well, they're published on Amazon, but they're not, but and they're, it's not enough to sell the book. They charge people for their signature. They'll sell them the book, but if they want a signed copy, so the book is like say $10, but if they want a signed copy, it's like almost $20. And I'm like, why not just like, tell them, hey, if you'll pay for the shipping and handling, I will sign the book and ship it back to you. Because what's happening here is that they're buying the book, then they're sending it to you with the money order for your signature, then you're sending it back to them, and they're paying for the postage on the way back. So I mean, by the time it's all said and done, they've spent like probably close to like $30 or $40 on I'm like, why would you do that? I don't want to say that I'm beating anybody up, but just for me personally, when my books hit Amazon, if anybody's like, hey, would you sign this? That's what I would be like, well, yeah, if you can help me pay for the shipping and handling, I'll sign it for free. But I'm not going to charge you like, money for my signature, because who am I? I'm just a guy telling stories and writing poems, but I mean, at the end of the day, who am I? I mean, I'm not an international best-selling writer. I'm not, none of my books, but even if my books, had been made into movies, and even if like, people just started buying them like hotcakes, I would still be actively trying to sign people's books without charging them, because I just don't understand. It's like, I don't know, my case in point, I know a girl and her friend that went to a Comic-Con to get Norman Reedus' autograph from The Walking Dead. They paid $300 to get this guy's autograph a piece, $300 a piece. They ask him one question about the TV show, and the bodyguard moves them on. And I'm like, why? That's. But
yeah, Norman Reedus has a new book coming out, or not a new one. He has one coming out. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way as you. Like, we over at Outcast Press, yeah, we'll send we'll send our authors like a crate of books, for example, and our authors will sign them, and they don't do any of this charging. It's all they say is, hey, here's the price of the book, and all we ask is you pay for shipping. The one guy, Jack Moody, who's he's crude and whatever, and his shtick is like, he'll actually, if you will draw, like, if people want, he's not going to do it unless they want it, but he's kind of become known for drawing like dick pictures to go to like a dick picture and do like a personalized message to them. You know what? He just wants, just the shipping and the price of the book. That's it. There's none of this gouging people.
And see, that's cool, because I've even seen some of the poets go so far as like you can buy the book, or you can buy what they call a bundle. And what they've done is they took the copy of the title of their book and put it on a coffee mug and on a T-shirt, and then they sign the book, and then they write you a special letter, and it's like some like bundle price. And I'm like, why don't you just it's like, I don't know, man. People, I guess I'm different, man. I think that when, like if somebody goes to the trouble of actually wanting me to sign something and they pay for it to be sent to me, yeah, I'd sign it in a heartbeat and send it back to them. Yeah, I'm honored that you want me to sign your book, because that's pretty cool, And yeah, like your friend, write something special in there, because most people just sign it and send it off. No, take the time to actually write a personal message in there, because you don't know. If you sell, like, say, 50 books, these 2 or 3 that sent you a request your signature might be the only 3 that you'll get. Make it memorable for them.
Well, and I don't think that people really understand, especially, just the pure, like, how word of mouth is, right? And so, like, people, they really underestimate word of mouth, and especially with like the digital age, where if you get a book, let's say just one person gets a book that they liked, they crack it open, they see, wow, a personalized message to me. They're going to tell, you're going to tell people, like, I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story in my hometown about this guy who was swamped with business. Okay, so to set the stage, he had a location that was 10 miles out of town. It was kind of hard to get to. And he was either was or is, I don't know if he still is anymore, is a mechanic. Okay, 10 miles out of town, did zero advertising. He did absolutely no advertising in a terrible location. But here's the thing with him, is he was probably the most honest mechanic. And so you would go to him and he would say, you know what, I can get you this part for cheaper if you don't mind, or if something didn't need to be repaired, he would say that. He would say, you know what, this doesn't really need to be repaired right now. You can put it off. And people were, car people, they tend to get a bad reputation. And so when they see something like that, they're like, wow, this guy could have fucked me. But instead he's like, no, I'm not gonna do this needless repair. And then they tell people, and before you knew it, this guy with zero advertising in a horrible location was swamped. He had to hire like 3 other guys. His wife, who was a nurse, quit her job so that she could do the accounting, and he was still like a month backlogged with cars. People don't understand, like, word of mouth. That's that lesson taught me, like, if you just do your best to treat people right and just do them right, word is going to spread, positively or negatively, and it may not be instantaneous, but eventually it's going to reverberate like a rock in a puddle, it's going to reverberate out, and you're going to gain a reputation of either being a scumbag or being somebody who does people right.
Yeah.
And over the years, that's going to accumulate. It's going to accumulate. So, yeah.
It's all about relationships, building those relationships.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I've enjoyed being on here today. I got to get off. I got some things I got to get done.
Oh, no worries, man.
Appreciate you coming on,
Thank
brother.
you again for having me on.
I'll
definitely submit to the anthology.
Okay, good. Yes, we did the anthology, and also speaking of signed copies, I definitely want a signed copy of when your collection comes out about
Definitely.
the Reapers killing pedophile religious people. That sold me right there. I want to see that. I need that.
Definitely
So,
will, man. Definitely will.
all right, it's been a pleasure having you on. It was awesome, dude.
Yeah, man. Good talk
All
to you.
right.
All right, take it easy.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, Cody, you and I want to bang on a bit. It doesn't look like we have any
No comments or questions.
no comments. I don't know if you can see anybody is in here. But
Okay, so I've got one viewer right now.
okay. Yeah, so man, that guy he had some wild stories. He had some real wild stories.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. What is our guest lineup? I know we've got Lauren Sapala on the 25th.
Yeah.
Um,
We've got we got to figure out something to do with Georgina Spellman still. So
oh yeah.
that's currently ongoing. So I don't know when that'll be wrapped up. I mean, she's kind of taking the questions slow, but which is fine. I mean,
They're good. They're good answers. You've been sending them to me, and it's awesome. So we got to get a female to read them because
yeah, every
some
week we
guy
do
reading
that.
it. Yeah. But yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, some promotion. So Cody, you're gonna have Anxious Nothings coming out at the end of the month, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So Anxious Nothings will come out at the end of the month. Slut Vomit's gonna drop May 15th. Let's see, what else should we promote? Obviously, my debut poetry book. If you haven't gotten it, uh, it's a great time to get it because I talked with Cody and I'm going to donate all my royalties to Planned Parenthood for
Okay.
that. So it's all going to go to that. So to support, to fight, hopefully fight back against in some kind of a small way. I'm not saying it's a major way, but in some kind of a small way, against these fucking pro-birth extremist assholes.
Christian
I
fascists.
I love that term. I've used that now extensively. And you also have another one. What is it called? Rape apologist?
Yeah. So what was it? I don't remember what I said now. What was it? No, it's rapist rights advocates.
Yeah, rapist rights advocates. Yeah, because there's some I forget what states it is where I've read stories about rapists getting like parental like visitation.
Or like they can, some states so you can so if you rape someone and they get pregnant, then they abort the baby. The rapist can now sue, or rapist family can sue. It's crazy shit. And I saw today where, go ahead.
Oh, it was in your state. Do you remember what was the senator from, or it might have been a politician from in your neck of the woods who said, what was it? I think it was like 10, 15 years ago. He's like, oh, women don't get pregnant from rape. The body has a way of shutting that down. Who was that who said that?
I think
That
was
fucking moron.
Was that Louis Gohmert?
It sounds like something he would say. And I think somebody else. It wasn't, no, it was like, I think it was from Illinois. It was some guy who's like, yeah, the body has a way of shutting that down.
It might have been, it was King, I think was his name, wasn't it? He had a last name King, I think.
I forget, yeah.
I don't remember. But yeah, I'm sure it's some stupid thing or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing with this. Like, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, then that's it for America. That's the final. Yeah, America's not going to be much longer after that. I mean, Greg Abbott in Texas this week was talking about how they're going to revisit. I forget the name of the case, but there's a 1982 Supreme Court case that mandates that public education be free for all children. So they want to revisit that and sort of get that overturned. And so yeah, they're not going to stop with just Roe v. Wade.
Just privatize everything. Just fucking See, and the thing about the Roe v. Wade thing is it's like I don't think people understand that that's not even okay. It's an important case, but like there's another case. I forget what the name of it is that's used to fuck over abortion clinics, which is something like reasonable. Like states can require, and it's really loose language, like reasonable something or other. I wish I knew the name of the case, but that's what's used to, like, especially down south, um, to screw over abortion clinics. Because then they can say, oh, well, you need to have medical grade facilities with halls, you know. And it's like, this is an abortion clinic. And so they can just sort of drive them out by just demanding that they do all of these different costs, or demanding that abortion providers have what is it called, clinic rights, or whatever, not privileges, hospital privileges. And it's like, so it's like you can already, and then there's like all these mandatory waiting periods that they do, like in Mississippi. I think it's in Mississippi, I think, where there's one abortion clinic, one, and there's a mandatory waiting period, like it's like 2 weeks or something. So if you're coming, you know, you're poor, you go there, you're told, well, you have to wait. You've probably spent all your money going there once. You're not going to go drive another 100, 200 miles again. So it's like, or this stupid shit where they make women look at the, it's like,
or yeah, a lot of them will do, like they'll, you know, do an ultrasound to make you see the baby's heartbeat or something to, I guess, guilt you into keeping it. But yeah, for it's like Chad was saying earlier, was yeah, that all it does, it just bans, you know, safe abortions. That's all it does.
Yeah, and like I would really encourage people out there to look up the horrific history of back alley abortions, where you get a lot of charlatans, right? I mean, it's you get people who are not well trained. They might be medical school dropouts. They might be just anybody, right? That uses very unsafe methods that leads to, in the, you know, death, reproductive problems. I mean,
yeah, and for the people who say things like, well, it's not banned, it's just going to be, you know, legislated at a state level. You know, it's not it shouldn't be a states' rights issue. I mean, because I mean, historically, what that means is that the state's right to restrict certain groups of people's rights. That's what they've always used it for.
Yeah.
But
and the states' rights argument is like, that's the whole like slavery bullshit too. Right? That was what states' rights, right?
And
States'
yeah,
rights.
and even if that was the case, it's a horrible, it's still a horrible system to have, because to have a system depend on electing the right people in order for you to have basic human rights. That is what happens if you vote or the wrong person gets elected? What happens then? Then you're fucked.
Yeah.
So it's a horrible system just all around.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things should not be. I mean, if we're going to have a government, which I know you and I disagree with on this, but I mean, if we have to put up with a government, yeah, it should be like the really important decisions should be federal. Healthcare, education, and like at this point, motherfuckers, can we just like legalize weed on the federal level? Like, can we do that finally? Can we? I mean, I live in Indiana where it's illegal, and it's fucking like, really. I mean, eventually it's going to happen, right? I mean, it happened with gay marriage, so it's going to happen. But a lot of these states, you know, they just will refuse. Like, I think our governor was like, so long as, I'm here, marijuana will never be illegal. See, that's why you need the federal government to step in, because you got some fucking asshole like that that's going to be like, as long as I'm here.
Right. It's got to be codified into law so that it can be immune to these type of reactionary nonsense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think we really disagree really on the question of government necessarily. I'm not for central authority necessarily. I'm just for legitimate forms of authority, which could be federal, could be state. I mean, it could be just a community of people getting together.
So then I think you would be more on the anarchist side, because the anarchists would say, like myself would say, all associations are voluntary. So there wouldn't be an overarching state. There wouldn't be democracy. There would be groups of people that choose to voluntarily associate. Maybe it's a neighborhood or whatever, and they collectively get together and decide things.
Yeah, so it's more like I guess you call it anarcho-communism, perhaps.
It could even manifest in many different ways, right? I mean, there's some groups could choose if they want. I mean, to be arcano-capitalists. I mean, that's not a system. I mean, that's not an association I would choose to be in. But if that's how people want to associate, I mean, okay. If you want to be, okay, it's fine by me. I mean, live the way you want. I mean, that's how I choose. It's like,
yeah, I mean, I guess it could, but I just don't see anybody who knows what that even would entail. I don't think anybody would choose to go live in that type of community and be exploited if they knew what they were getting into. And then the problem is if they're tricking people or coercing people into doing that, then that's a whole set of another question, I guess. But and should that be allowed in our utopia?
Yeah, and I mean, I think another myth is like anarchism isn't a utopia. It's not like nobody's claiming, like no anarchist that worth his or her salt is going to claim that it's perfect and that there's not going to be serious problems, but there's serious problems right now, right? I mean, it's like when people like point out the problems, like as opposed to what now, where we deny people health care, as opposed to now where we view soldiers just as cannon fodder, and it's like, oh, I mean, I caught shit for this because I'm like, the biggest when I said is like the way that this country views soldiers is like, you should have fucking died over there because you come back and you get nothing, right? Like you get what, the shitty VA. You get like one of the largest sectors of the homeless population are homeless, are veterans. So this is why like I give zero credence to all these fucking dickhead politicians that rant and rave about we love the soldiers. You don't. You don't. You let them languish on the street, you fucking dick.
Yeah, that's actually part of the reason that they don't give us like free healthcare and so free college, because that's one of the biggest recruiting methods they use in poorer communities to get them to join the army in the first place.
Yep.
They dangle free college, free healthcare to get them to join. So.
Well, and what's fascinating too is all of these politicians that are against like universal health care. It's like fascinating. Don't you get health care? Interesting. So it's good for you, but not people. And as best and as shitty as it works, the VA, that's essentially universal health care for a certain group of people. So it works okay for them and it works okay for the politicians, but not everybody else.
Right.
Oh, okay. I see how it works. The real problem, I mean, of course, you and I both know the real reason is then, pharmaceutical dickheads, their CEOs can only buy 30 jets a year and not, 50. I can only, my yacht within a yacht. I can't buy another yacht to go on my yacht within a yacht. Oh, fuck you.
Yeah, they can only buy 3 summer vacation homes instead of just 4 they wanted.
Oh, the tragedy. Oh,
Yeah. But
oh,
I don't know, man.
give it 10 years, and that's what Bergman's gonna be complaining about. It's like, oh, it's ethically consistent for me to buy 3 homes, and if only these poor people would take responsibility for losing the birth lottery.
I know. It's just unbelievable. I used to think that maybe given enough time that things would naturally progress on their own, but I don't think that anymore. And people aren't really ready to hear this, but it's going to require violence.
Yeah, sadly, that seems to be the case.
I mean, that's the point I try to make to people, anybody who will listen to me, is that voting is not going to help us. With this Roe v. Wade thing, I see a lot of people talking about, vote blue, no matter who. That old bullshit, but that's not going to help us.
No, I mean, no. And I mean, let's not forget that, like, the Democrats just have a nice veneer of they're basically Republicans. I mean, if you look, actually more right wing than you look at Ronald Reagan's policies and you compare them to contemporary Democrats that are in, like a Nancy Pelosi, for example. She's more right wing than Ronald Reagan was, than Nixon was.
Yeah.
So you have basically in this country, you have 2 parties. You have the far right, and then you have Republicans, just fucking lunatics. So you have lunatics on the one hand, and then you have straddling the fence fascists on the other side. What a great, and those are the people we get to pick from. Crazy people that are bananas that suck off Ayn Rand, or we've got other people who just finger her a little bit, maybe just, tittle her a little bit, but basically they're doing the same thing to Ayn Rand,
Yes. I mean, granted, objectively they are. I mean, one party is still marginally better than the other one, but it's when it comes to like real issues, like economic issues, for example. Yeah, there's pretty much they're uniform across the board. Yeah, you can't tell.
They're straight up capitalists. Like there was a kid asked, there was a student, there was a kid that I watched. He asked Nancy Pelosi, he's like, listen, capitalism is not favorable among the youth. And she's like, well, we're capitalists. You got to accept that. Well, okay, you're on your way out, lady. I mean, hopefully, please be on your way out. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, lady who always voted to give George Bush a whole bunch of money for his fucking criminal wars. It's like Jeremy Scahill said of these Democrats, they're vegetarians between meals. It's time to kick them out of the restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, it's gonna require, and it's gonna be hard. I mean, if you think about it, if you just look at labor history in America, I mean, we've had a much more violent labor history than any other comparable country, and that it's going to require the same amount of violence as it did to get the something as simple as just 8-hour workday. It's going to require violence. So anybody listening, you might as well get ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at what Jimmy Hoffa. I mean, he was down in the trenches, I mean, you go back even to just Jimmy Hoffa, in his early days. He was punching people, and when they were like, union busting things, and he was arrested. I mean, before the mob stuff, but I mean, in his early days, wasn't he arrested several times because he was assaulting people? Right. But it's like, who was he assaulting? It was these, capitalist pigs that were trying to break up unions and And like can get on, people go on their high horse about, oh well, Jimmy Hoffa had ties to the mob. It's like, okay, but like you don't understand what options did the man have? Because on the other side, you had either the Pinkertons or Pinkerton type groups. So it's like, who's he gonna? I mean, he's fighting against, how else is he supposed to be able to get sort of like protection and muscle and whatever? It's like this whole notion of, oh well, you have to be above all of this, but that doesn't work.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I wish it did.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish it did, but it doesn't. Like you want to. It's like people say, well, I don't want to, get down and say, listen, you want to fight rats? You're going to go, okay, where are you going to fight rats? In the trees? No, you're going to fight them in the sewer.
Yeah, that's actually part of the reason that Malcolm X he hated Martin Luther King Jr. in the beginning.
Called him an Uncle Tom in the beginning. Called him an Uncle Tom, right?
Because he wasn't like, he was all for like, nonviolence, but Malcolm X was like, no, we got to have, we're fighting for our lives here. He eventually came around to Malcolm X's side towards the end. But
yeah.
But I should probably clarify. When I say violence, I don't just mean physical violence. I mean like economic violence. So anytime you like a mass walkout on the job, that's economic violence committed against the capitalist caste, and that's how they're going to see it. So,
I mean, that's actually probably the more effective type, is just hit him in the pocketbook. Better than burning something down is just, what I've seen, again, this is very anecdotal, but a lot of places, like there was one bookstore that said, that I saw, that said, we're closing early today to allow for our employees to go on protests. Good. More places should do that. And that's part of why, not that my contribution will be anything, to write home about, but that's also why it's like, well, I want my royalties to go to this, because like you said, it's kind of the end. Like if this goes through, like we're really seeing the decline of any kind of, because then what can they do? Then they can ram through this whole, privatized education. And like, I'm sorry, folks, charter schools have a terrible track record. They run it like a business.
Yeah.
And it's the, you don't want to go back.
No.
We don't need any more. We need, yeah. I don't know what else to say. I'm rambling at this point, but it's just such a.
Yeah, like I said, I think people will look back, if anyone is left in America at that point, will look back and see this as the defining moment that led to the collapse.
Yeah.
There's nothing to stop them at this point, if it is overturned.
Well, and what's fascinating too is it's like how much can the American people take, because it's like, or even people around the world, because it's like, all right, we've had 2 years of COVID stuff. Then we're coming out of that. We're kind of like, okay, good. Then it's Ukraine. Fucking hell. Now it's this. It's like, fucking Christ. Like, can't you people just not be raging douchebags for like, can you just give people a break? For their own self-interest, right? If they were smart, they would think like the most dangerous people are the ones who've got nothing to lose, right?
Yeah,
and
you would think they would think that, the best position for me would be if my head was so attached to my body.
Yeah.
So maybe I should, get them.
Hold off for like a year. Hold off for a year and then do it. But yeah, I don't think that these people really get, like, they're pushing a lot of people into a point where they've got nothing to lose. You take away their health care, you take away their bodily autonomy. you take away their rights to education. You increase in food prices, so people are starving. Housing prices again, and it's like you're going to have a lot of people with nothing to lose, and a person with nothing to lose, that's pretty dangerous. And for those people, not that I'm so that we don't get taken down from YouTube, not condoning any of this.
Oh.
Wink, wink. That's what I've got to say. Not condoning any of this, but if hypothetically it comes to pass that there are a lot of these people who have nothing to lose, hopefully it's taken out on the right people. Sadly, it tends to be taken out on, it's scapegoated. Minorities, Muslims, immigrants, which that's too bad. Don't take it out on them. Take it out on the real people who are fucking you. People in Washington, corporations. That's who's really ramming you in the asshole and you're fucking hemorrhaging to death from the ass raping you're getting. Those are the people that if hypothetically you lose your shit, needs the brunt of the rage.
Yeah. So, I see it playing out in, I guess, one or two scenarios. One, either due to the desperation of people, they'll turn to fascism, which they seem to be doing already, and we'll just get further and further along that line, or armed revolution, which I would prefer the former. But all this plays out in the background of economic and climate change, and
Yeah, sadly, that's how it went it went sort of in the fascist direction with Donald Trump, right? Where a lot of people were hurting and they gave into a demagogue.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, come next election, I think we can all agree it's been quite uninspiring, the Joe Biden presidency. It's very uninspiring. And so which is too bad, because what that probably means is it opens the doorway for another demagogue.
Yeah, this next one, he'll be smarter than Trump too, so it'll be even more of a threat. Yeah, they won't lose this next time. They learned a lot.
Yeah, because with Trump, they got somebody who was really unhinged. They got someone who they thought that they could control, and yeah, they'll be smarter next time. Although I do find it funny, I will say that I do find it funny that there was one funny thing about the Capitol Hill thing, was how Donald Trump just completely threw Mike Pence under the bus. Just completely was just like, fuck, because he's the guy who's supposed to certify. He's like, fuck that guy, basically. Which I found absolutely hilarious.
I thought it was funny because Trump sent a car to pick him up, I think, and Trump or Pence wouldn't get in the car because he was like legitimately afraid that Trump was going to have him whacked.
Really?
Yeah, that does.
He was actually afraid that Trump was going to go have him whacked. Okay.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. And I have a special hatred for Mike Pence because he was the governor in my state, and this was a guy, this fucking guy was, there was a huge epidemic, like an HIV epidemic among drug users and drug addicts. And he was like, he didn't do anything. He said, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna pray about it. Pray on your own fucking time, Mike. Pray on your own fucking time. Do something. And he was also the guy who got passed, like the religious freedom bill that let businesses discriminate and fire trans people and gay people just because of that. Like they could say, like, I want to fire you because you're gay. So I have a special hatred in my heart towards that fucking guy.
Yeah, I understand that.
But then, of course, you have in Chicago the absolute dumpster fire, Lori Lightfoot. What a schmuck! Like every time I see her, it's like, what a fucking schmuck.
I can't stand to even look at her really.
Yeah, but then again, Chicago's not. It's not known for its reputable politicians. So.
Or even the whole state. Even I think the last 3 or 4 governors we've had have all been in jail. So man,
Who were the last? Yeah, who were they? Because the last guy went to jail, didn't he? Who was it? It was
that was Blagojevich, I think was the last one.
yeah, Blagojevich. He's in jail, right?
I'll be out by now. I'm not sure actually.
But he at least served time. Yeah. Yeah,
His-
certain states are
tried
not
to
known.
tried to sell the Senate seat. Obama left vacant.
Oh yeah, that's what he tried to do. He tried to sell. Yeah, so certain states like are not known for their reputable politicians, like Illinois, Jersey, New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, like especially Jersey, like Joey Diaz, he has a bunch of funny stories about how just the corruption, just the sheer corruption of Jersey, their politicians. And like it's funny, he commented he was doing a Hot Wings thing where they showed Joey, where the skit is. Oh, here's some memorable stuff from Jersey you can comment on. So of course it was Sopranos and Jersey Shore, but one of them was Chris Christie, and he's like, fuck this guy. This guy gets on my last fucking nerve. Waste of space. He goes, fuck him. So
I agree.
yeah, but no, I thought the episode was good. I don't see any comments, or we would wish we'd get comments, and we can have some. Hopefully, as this picks up steam, we'll get more. But
I think it will.
yeah, so just look out for some final promotion that I'll put in, and then you can add some too, Cody. Yeah, check out Outcast Press. Our catalog of books. Unless things on Amazon have changed, right? There's a deep discount on our Filth anthology. It's like 40% off, so you can pick up the paperback for like
That's pretty good. Yeah.
like $7 or something, and that's got some. I mean, that's got some heavy hitters in there. It's got Steve Gold, it's got Craig Clevenger, Lawrence Apala, and a bunch of others that are lesser known. Also, last time I checked, it was about 25% off Sean McCallum's book, The Recalcitrant Stuff of Life.
Nice.
Pick up that one. I mean, that one's a real, nice, Butch Cassidy meets Hunter S. Thompson. Just a
Good shit.
great. Yeah. And then, of course, we've got Austin Davis's poetry book, and he's still going out on tour. And this cat, we got to get this cat on the podcast. Like this man is, I mean, he talks, he's 21, I think. I had no idea how old he was, but he talks with like the wisdom of like a Cornell West, and the things that he's seen working with the homeless population is just outstanding. So we've got that. We've got Jack Moody, who has Crooked Smile, which is this nice semi-autobiographical novel about this fictional character, Henry Gallagher. his liver's failing, and so you get to hear. Myself, Outcast Press, and him have made the Bukowski comparison, and some people have kind of took issue with that. The writing style isn't like Bukowski, just to make that clear, but it's just the forthright honesty. That's the Bukowskian element. Like there's a lot of his prose is a lot. Jack Moody's prose is a lot. I would say better than Bukowski. That's not what's Bukowskian about it. It's just the raw honesty that's Bukowskian.
Huh.
And then we've got Nevada McPherson, who's got this series. Her first one is Poser. So if you like, I mean, imagine Breaking Bad meets Desperate Housewives with all of the weird romance, noir, all mixed in. You'll love it. And then, coming up, we've got, once again, I'll reiterate, Slut Vomit will be dropping the 15th. Cody, you've got Anxious Nothings dropping at the end of the month. Also from you, you've got Barb's book, Something Happened at 2 a.m., which is a phenomenal Flash collection.
Great book.
Screw Factory by, I forget.
Edward Enke. Yeah.
Edward Enke. Carson Peele has, I forget the name of his book.
Yeah. Tomorrow, Every Day, Yesterday, too.
Yeah, that. And there's some other great stuff in the pipeline. I don't think I'm telling tales out of school when I say Leah John will have something coming with you.
That'll be July, probably.
Yeah, I'm doing I got to get on that for a blurb. She asked me for a blurb for that. I got to get on that. And then more good stuff. And then for our stuff in the summer, I'll leave that until more things are solidified, but we'll have some more stuff down the pipeline. And also, right, we can't forget, we're still Cody and I are still hammering out the details. But yeah, we'll have the charity anthology. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that this person asked to remain anonymous. So I'm going to say that it's anonymous, but we got a nice donation from somebody to help fund the project, and very generous. And so if you're listening, I don't know if you are, you said you wanted to remain confidential, but thank you. It was very generous, and mad props to you. And it's people like you that, yes. And that'll probably, depending on any kind of issues we run into or whatever. I mean, we're kind of anticipating August, September, and all of the proceeds from that are going to go to either Planned Parenthood or some other reputable women's health organizations. I don't quite know how donations like this work, but if Planned Parenthood won't take our money, which they probably will, I mean, why wouldn't they? We'll find somebody, some other one that's gonna. But I kind of want Planned Parenthood to have it, just because, people, they say, they link Planned Parenthood to abortion so much, and it's like they do like it's like 3% of the funding. First of all, they don't even perform them there, you assholes. They refer you to other people. What they mostly do, as I'm sure you know, and hopefully the audience knows, but if you don't, it's women's health. Actually, not even women's health. It's like anybody who's poor. Like I have a gay friend who got an STD. He went to Planned Parenthood, a guy, and he got a reasonably priced STD test with treatment. Excellent place that serves. That's the other thing about all these fucking, sorry for another rant, all these fucking people that want to defund Planned Parenthood. What they really want to do is hate fuck poor women, because that's a large sector of what Planned Parenthood serves, is poor women, especially minorities. So what you're basically saying when you want to defund Planned Parenthood is you want to fuck poor women. that provide health screenings, pap smears, and newsflash to all of the Republican dildos out there, they provide really comprehensive sex education. You know, the kind of stuff where a woman wouldn't have to get an abortion, providing condoms, and I'll really blow their mind. They also, inclusive in their sex education programs, they also say that abstinence is also a good option too. Wow, what a shock. So what a terrible organization this is. You know, what an awful organization, helping women and also teaching people that, you know what, abstinence too is also a good option too.
Yeah.
But oh no, a sliver, a tiny little bit of their money goes to referring people to abortion clinics. So we got to make sure we.
Yeah, they just emphasize that so they can, you know, stampede their dumb constituency to do whatever they want.
Yep. All right. I think that's enough. Whatever. So for anybody viewing, I think you said there was one person viewing live.
I was like 2 now, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, we appreciate the 2 people that showed up, and awesome guests. So, he had some wild.
Yeah,
we gotta have.
I love his stories. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we should probably. What do you think? End it here and. Yeah. Figure out next week. Maybe next week is when we'll do. I'm gonna forget her name. The ex porn star during the golden age of porn. I forget her name.
Yeah, Georgina Spelman.
Georgina Spelman. Okay, yeah, maybe we can do that. And
that's actually not her real name. That's her stage name. But.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, whatever. That's yeah. So maybe get somebody to read the answers to our questions that we had for, that's exciting. Like that's fascinating. So yeah, we'll end it here, and thanks for the people who joined in live, and for anybody who's gonna watch afterwards. Do you have any final words, Cody?
Be kind, do crime.
There you go. Be kind to the right people, namely your own, namely the poor people. Mm-hmm. Don't be so nice to landlords at a fucking fight, another fucking fight with a landlord today.
Because it's important to understand that anytime you're down in your luck, a poor person will always help you. That's the only one you can count on.
Yep, that's true. That's the only yeah. That's a good mic drop. I'm going to end it there. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you the next time, probably in about a week. So, all right. Take it easy, man.
We'll see you later.